The summer when I first learned to listen began at the edge of a dusty lane behind Grandma's house. The lane wore the brightness of August like a memory you can taste, honeyed light that clung to skin and dared the nerves to wake. It smelled of peaches from the old orchard, of hay still damp from a morning rain, of something both sweet and old, resin and dust, and the soft carpet of cicadas. I must have been 7 or 8, tall enough to haul a plastic pail and small enough to vanish into the hedge when the game grew loud. We, my cousins and I, made a game that felt ancient in its simplicity, a ritual of patience disguised as mischief. We called it hide and go slow, because the world, when you're a child, is a long, breath-held moment between a look and a step. We would slip into the lilac hedge and barely breathe, waiting for a giggle that betrayed us. Then tumble into the dust and rise again, as if the earth itself forgave our clumsy courage. The grown-ups on the porch watched with a quiet amusement that sounded like distant bells, an assurance that the day would forgive us our bravado if we kept going. On that particular afternoon, the one that still remembers its light as if it were a child's own heartbeat, gold settled in the corners of the yard like coins dropped from a sunlit pocket. Grandma stood at the edge of the kitchen that opened onto the back porch, her hands busy with the ordinary and intimate. Drying a towel, wiping the wood with a rag, the heat curling from the stove like pale blue smoke. The clock above the sink ticked with a gentle insistence, a measured reminder that small moments, if given room, could widen into something larger than their own edges. We had once found a little red fox cub in the hedge long ago, and that memory still travelled through the house like a soft rumour, the kind that returns in a whisper when the day grows quiet. That afternoon, as I bent to look through the lilac blossoms, the world shifted a touch, and it grew thick with something heavier and sweeter. Ripe peaches, sugar, heat, and the kind of humidity that lies like a blanket across the shoulders. A dog barked somewhere far away, and the echo came back to us as a memory of sound itself, a thing you feel in the chest rather than hear with the ear. Grandma set down the wooden spoon with a soft clack and called us to gather near the sink, where a big tin of cold water waited for our tired hands. She had a way of making a gesture feel like a lesson, a wipe of the fingers with a towel, a gentle press of her palm to ours that said, without words, "You belong here. You are a seed in the soil of this old house, and you will grow." The water cooled our wrists, and the scent of soap and citrus rose from the basin, clean and simple, the kind of scent that hides in the corners of memory until years later you catch it and suddenly know what it meant. Behind the kitchen, the screen door sang when it swung, and beyond it the yard stretched in long bands of shadow and sun. The well rope creaked as Grandma pulled it up, and the bucket thumped into the wooden pail with a tired little sound that spoke of time passing in honest measures. Our bare feet brushed the rough boards, warmed by the day, and the texture of the wood, coarse, forgiving, loyal, seemed to memorize us as we moved. In those days, we learned to measure life by acts that would barely register to grown-ups. A glass of lemonade rinsed with a splash of water. A bowl of corn kernels sliding across a wooden table. The careful way Grandma taught us to peel a peach. One slow stroke from stem to blossom. The juice catching the light as if little suns hid beneath the skin. We ate at the edge of the porch. The boards warm beneath our feet. The horizon a flat, heat-hazed line that somehow contained all the possibilities of the day. The river beyond the field shimmered as a pale ribbon, a question that your eyes traced and your heart answered in silence. And when we finally laughed at a joke and toppled into the grass, she would sit with us for a moment still, present, content to be part of the chorus of living. I learned then to read people not in words, but in attention. If you want to know the truth about a person, you watch where their eyes land, when a child spills something, or a dog howls, or a new thought takes hold and won't release its hold. Grandma's eyes found truth in those moments. Not embarrassment, but resilience, the unspoken promise that we would try again, that we would not be erased by a stumble. Time did not erase what a simple day could carry. It borrowed it gently, like a mother mending a favourite blanket. The memory did not fade. It redrew itself each year when lilacs bloomed, when peaches grew sweet, when the screen door sang and the well rope creaked. In later years, I understood that this was how a life is built, out of quiet, steadfast acts, listening, letting others speak, offering a hand without making a show of it, choosing gentleness over the rush to fix. There were failures, yes, moments when my own fretfulness tripped me up, but the seed Grandma planted held firm. It kept me patient with others, kept me steady when the world seemed loud and unkind, and taught me to value the ordinary life that carries a person through the long hours. Now I sit by the window in the late afternoon, the light slanting across the room like warm honey, and the memory feels not distant but near, a soft, breathing presence. I can taste the peaches again, and hear the same old doors sigh, as if they too are tired from listening to all the stories that have passed through them. The memory is not a still photograph, but a living thing. It breathes when the house grows quiet, warms when I recall the laughter, and becomes a counsel that speaks to me without shouting. In the years since, I have tried to carry that patient kindness into the wider world, to listen to the way a person's voice dips when they are uncertain, to hold back my own stories until the moment is right, to offer a gentle presence rather than a quick answer. I failed often, of course. I am not immune to the stubbornness of age or to the sting of pride. Yet that early lesson remained like a seed pressed into soil and given time to sprout. Life is held together by small, quiet acts of care. The world does not demand grand gestures from us. It asks simply that we remain human to one another. Time may be slipping away, and days may become thinner as the years accumulate, but the memory remains bright enough to guide a slow breath into the chest. It reminds me that happiness does not arrive as a procession, but as the slow ferrying of small mercies from one moment to the next. A glass of lemonade with a touch of frost, a shared glance, the soft pressure of a palm on a tired shoulder. That memory is a quiet harbour in which my heart has learned to rest. So I hold it close, grateful for the peaches and the laughter, for the screen door's soft creak, for the patient hands that taught me to belong. Time passes, yes, as surely as the river carries its stones, but meaning endures, braided into every simple act I ever performed. The way I listened, the way I learned to be patient with others, the way I kept faith with the ordinary joys of life. The memory did not end with the last bite of a summer fruit. It became the compass by which I measured a life, the gentle refrain I return to in the quiet of evening, when the world grows large and my own voice grows soft. Time passes, and we move with it, but the glow of that day stays with me like a soft lantern at the edge of a doorway, inviting me to enter with kindness, to stay a little longer, to remember well.